you are going to have such a treat today, I can't tell you. We have programs running on exploring our Lake Forest neighborhoods and some of our unknown Lake Forest neighborhoods. And this is the first of a few of them that we're going to have rolling out into also 2010. It's a year-long series, and it's basically to educate and introduce members to our enclaves and to help preserve them. Today we're very fortunate to have two people. First, the architect who built this particular house that we're going to, and also the houses on Overlook Drive. And he's come in from Telluride to visit his family and also to speak to us. And second, we have the award-winning architect who renovated the house that we're going to visit back in 2002 and 2003. So the first, architect Robert Roloson, is here from Telluride, and he's going to tell you about his development on Overlook Drive. These 1970 custom-built houses, someone reminded me this week that they were first houses and now they're homes. So the material that you saw and all the posters and your cards, it should have said houses, I suppose, but really they're homes now. And they're all sited on Lake Forest's deepest and most beautiful ravine. Bob will set the stage of telling you how he found the property and how he designed the houses. The program should be entitled A Masterpiece in Two Strokes because of the two architects speaking to you today. We also have Wells Wheeler, Lake Forest architect, who actually will show slides about the renovation, some before and after pictures, details and elements of this exquisite modern home. I hope I don't use too many superlatives, but I could. I could go on forever about this house. Before we begin, you should be receiving, or you should have received a map, not the best map we put out, but a map of how to get there. It doesn't take that long. The parking will be tight. So if you can carpool, that would really help out a lot. It would alleviate the tight parking. You'll be wearing booties in the house. Also, if you have trouble walking, make certain that you're aware of the multi-levels. You're going to see different levels in this house, and they're beautiful. We're going to be having beverages and treats outside, but you have the full use of the house. You're going to be exploring all the rooms in it, so that's quite a treat too. And we ask that you save the questions and answers until you arrive at the house. You have two architects to ask, and you're going to be seeing a lot of details and a lot of very pretty work. And of course, to me, it's almost like a tree house, literally. You're on a ravine looking at this beautiful forest, and it's almost a shame it's not in October. I wanted this program in October, to tell you the truth, because I knew we'd have lots of reds and oranges and color, but it's beautiful. It has to be beautiful in all seasons. So I want you to enjoy the experience, and first Bob will talk, and then immediately after that Wells will speak, and then we're going to leave immediately and go right on over to the house to enjoy it. So thank you. Bob?
Thank you, Jan. Thank you all for honoring me with this opportunity to tell you something about this house. I thought I'd start out by giving you a little bit about myself. I lived in Winnetka as a child, and at the end of the Second World War, moved here to Lake Forest and attended the Bell School. Do we have any Bell School graduates here? No? After that, I went on to high school at the Taft School in Watertown, Connecticut, and moved on to get a history degree from Kenyon College in Gambier, Ohio. As you may guess, a history degree isn't very good in this practical world today. So after stumbling around a few more years, I went on to the University of Pennsylvania and got a master's degree in architecture. I came back and did some apprentice work working on the Civic Center in Chicago. It was just being built at that time, and I proudly can say I drew every ceiling in that building. It took me a year and a half to do it. From then, after that, I worked with a gentleman by the name of Roy Binkley, an architect in Chicago. And while with him, I managed to steal his head draftsman and form a little organization of our own called Roloson and Associates, and open an office here in Highland Park. And that's kind of when the trouble starts, because all of a sudden here are two young architects with no reason at all why anybody should use this. Why would anybody use all their hard-earned savings to use architects of unknown name? So the thought came to me, what I have to do is I have to find the best land around and then use that as a piece of bait to draw people in, and that's what we did. Bob Kendler had just bought that property that we're about to visit. It's 16 acres over there, and it gets a little complicated. Temple Smith up north wanted a piece of little farmland that I had, and he wanted it so badly because it was right next to his Lipizzaner horses, and he was terrified I was going to develop it. And anyway, I was shooting his pheasants when they would trespass onto my property. So he was very anxious to get this land from me. So we made a deal. I got him to buy the property here from Bob Kendler, and I traded him for the property up north. And so now I had this 16 acres here in town, and let it be known that I would be delighted to sell it to anybody, provided they use me as the architect. One of the very first ones was just a little aside here, was Bob Donnelly, and Tom Donnelly. He was the one with the house, if you're familiar with the area in the end. Some people call it the dome house or the flying saucer or whatever. But actually it's shaped more like a propeller, and it's probably the most unusual house I've ever done. And poor Tom came to me and he said, Bob, I just want a square house, like everybody else has in Lake Forest. And I said, yeah, well, right, Tom. I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll design something. If you don't like it, the rules are the same as they are for everybody. No charge for the drawings, and we separate as friends. And I did this drawing, and it just came out, this propeller-shaped house. And I called Tom, and I said, well, I've got something to show you, but I'm going to ask that you not make any comment on it until you've had the weekend to think about it. Call me on Monday morning. And he did. He didn't show a slightest bit of emotion in his face. When I opened this thing up, I had this great big model of this thing. And he didn't wrinkle his nose about it. And I thought, oh God, I'm in trouble. And on Monday morning, the telephone rings, and it's Tom, and he said, Bob? And I said, yes? And he said, build it. And so I was very proud of that. Where do we go from here? I guess we go over to the house, but I might just mention that of those houses that I sold those lots and did design drawings for every one of them, except one that my son Bob did over there. I never got a refusal. Everybody always accepted the plan that I did, which made me very happy. I think it's best that I answer the questions about the house itself when we get over there. I might point out that is Illinois common brick, which is you can't get now, and it's a terrible shame, but the firing process became so expensive for firing common brick that everybody just fires face brick instead, which they can get a great deal more money for. And now I guess Wells has got something to say about how he's corrected all my mistakes.
Sure.
Thank you.
Thanks, Bob. I used to work for Bob. I was a starving architecture student in '74, and he hired me. And I built a model of this house. And I always thought this is one of my favorites in your enclave of houses. But I worked for Bob from about '74 through '81. And I got a call, in '02, and somebody said, I want you to come over and take a look at one of these Roloson houses. And lo and behold, it was the house he'd done for Charlie Glore. And so I said, I know this house, sort of. I did build the model. I did a couple sketches of it when I didn't know anything. But I'd be happy to work on it. So what we did was, my client was a guy named Bob Elliott, and he had some very specific stuff that he wanted to do. He had some materials that he enjoyed, wanted to use on the house, and he was in love with the house, and it was a great house, and it had great bones, and all of the builders, we all considered it, we talked about it as the tree house, because all of the vistas from the house, you're up in the trees, and so we had a lot of fun referring to it as the tree house. I'm going to give you a brief slideshow. This is the front elevation. Now, I took all of the existing shots on a dreary day so that I could make the after photos look much better. So these are a nice cloudy day, and this is basically the week I met the client. And it has this kind of austere, not quite imposing facade at the street side. But Bob explained that he designed this so that cars making the turn around the corner wouldn't shine their lights in through the windows in the house. So, and it made all the sense in the world. And the total orientation of this house is towards the ravine and in the trees. So, we tried to enhance that when we worked on it. Let's see, bear with me. This is, now, don't get sick. This is the floor plan. I'll move this around a little bit. We didn't make a whole lot of changes to the basic shape of the house. In fact, we added 100 square feet. And that was to the greenhouse. We extended the greenhouse towards the ravine, basically towards the south. We did increase the size of the garage. We changed this area over on the left. That's the kitchen. There was a maid's room and a bathroom and a laundry room. And we turned that into kind of a breakfast entertainment area with a den and an expanded kitchen. We expanded the greenhouse south, as I mentioned. We kind of redecorated the living room. We added in the front hall a closet and a powder room. This was a very spacious front hall initially, and you walk in the front doors and you would be greeted by a fountain. Fountain came out. The master suite, library, and master bedroom, we reconfigured the bathrooms a little bit, and that was the extent of the work there. We maybe extended the balcony a little bit over this patio area. The ravine, Bob Elliott later added a stair down to the bottom of the ravine. So this is the lower level of the house. Bob Elliott liked to do woodwork, so we expanded the outside stair so he could carry a sheet of plywood down into his brand new workshop. We built a crafts room for Bob's wife. Bob and Randy moved in here in '02. Randy passed away in '06. The house is currently for sale, but it was a project she was great to work for. Bob was great to work for because he did get his fly tying shop. Bob's he fishes all over the world, and he likes to keep his trophies in here and tie flies. Wine cellar and a guest bedroom for their their visitors, and he had an office downstairs. So it's not a huge house, but it's a wonderful place. This is the front entrance as designed by Bob. These are some really great doors, but they had weathered, and we changed them around. There's a little bridge that approaches the front doors, and we kind of revised it. One of Bob Elliott's druthers was to go with these copper doors, and they're pretty elegant. We changed the bridge. I liked the appearance of the materials. It was constructed of 2x4s on edge, so you saw the narrow face, the narrow band. We found this Brazilian hardwood it's in a managed forest. The species is Paulupe or Ipe, one or the other. And that kind of became a theme, as you'll see later on. In fact, this door to the laundry area is kind of veneered with this Paulupe material. This is the garage as originally designed. You can see it's a dreary day, so that's one of the old shots. And the garage was recessed a little bit. My client wanted a little deeper garage, so we built it out a little bit and used that. We built a new fascia with that Paulupe theme. This is the new view, and I can zoom in. And we had to change the appearance of some things. Some things were aging, and here's the old greenhouse, which you won't see on the tour. It's gone, and it served its purpose, but it was 30 years old. Here, the old greenhouse. This is one of these heartbreaking shots in the middle of the winter, where you totally exposed the house to the weather, and the snow and the ice, and you discovered things that are going to start delaying construction. So this is one of these fun things. Anyway, the old greenhouse is gone in this photo, and there's the new greenhouse. On multiple levels, we ate up part of the kitchen. We extended the kitchen out into the old greenhouse. So that's why we accounted for moving the greenhouse south a little bit. Here's the old house, and you can see that common brick. It is hard to find that. Well, you can't get the common brick, but we did find a face brick that has the same appearance, texture, color, and we did use that here and there. So that was nice. But basically, we changed all the windows. We changed the fascia. Here's another. That's a shot. I took that old photo, and then we kind of sketched in where the owner wanted his new tub. And I played around with between photos and tracing paper. That's just one of the vehicles to get us to where we are now. That's an old photo of the house. There's the new shot. And so you can see we used this Paulupe fascia material pretty extensively. This is a new column, and we have these copper planters. So this is consistent with my client's desire to use as much copper, and he saw this wood and thought, that reminds me of mahogany. He liked mahogany and cherry. So now there's the 1974 living room. And what we did was we basically raised the fireplace in this space and redid the ceiling a little bit. And here's my sketch. We're going to do a coffered ceiling, and we were going to do this little peephole into the. There's a hallway behind the fireplace. Unfortunately, there were fireplace elements in the way, so we couldn't do that. But we ended up doing. little display panel. And here's how we framed the ceiling. And that was a lot of work. And this is the final result was the ceiling. The fireplace raised a little bit to be on the same level as the second riser. And Bob Elliott liked cherry floors, so we put in a brand new cherry floor in this space. Okay, there's the display. I hired a fellow named Mitchell Cohn, who's a great lighting designer, and he helped us kind of lock in on a couple of the concepts. Here we have this display case, basically. Randy used to collect a lot of little fabulous objects, including miniature Bauhaus furniture. And I always assumed she was going to display that in here, but she had some other stuff. But we've top lit each of these cells. Here's another picture of the living room. You can see the coffered ceiling is bamboo and cherry trim. This is the original front hall. There was a barrel vault skylight, and it had over the years the plastic had kind of crazed, and my client wanted to see the trees. He wanted to stand in here and see the trees, so we had to put in a clear glass skylight. We kept as much of this as we could. We kept the basket weave detailing. That's throughout the house on the exterior and every once in a while on the interior. That we maintained. Here's a view from the dining room out towards the forest and the ravine. Another heartbreaking view with the the house exposed to the weather during. Now this is the skylight. What we tried to do was run some perimeter lighting, indirect lighting around the skylight, and the owner wanted his copper panels around the perimeter. And this is kind of how it came out with indirect lighting. We've maintained the basket weave and some incredible lighting that's very compatible with the architecture. There. And also, my client hired a sculptor who wanted a tree inside the house. So this guy was able to build this tree in the stair hall, and you'll see it. It's pretty amazing. We did redesign this as a whole cherry stair, and that'll be on. You'll see that here. It is. Landing, the cherry stair, brand new wrought iron railing. There's the tree and the wine cellar. We did a lot of new doors in this house, and we tried to use Bob's original design for the front door. I tried to use that square pattern throughout. This is the new powder room in the front entrance. It's a 4-inch mahogany slab with a vessel sink. We found a couple of copper handmade light fixtures from a guy in North Carolina. One of Bob Elliott's things was he liked to have handmade items installed in the house, and so that's the kitchen is all handmade. There were no stock cabinets anywhere. There's a sketch for his bathroom. I have to include a couple sketches to show what I do. This is a view from above the shower. I'm trying to figure out all the elements that he wanted to put in the shower. And there's a mirror that he found and said, "We got to have this." So in it went. There's the remodeled downstairs guest bathroom where the Randy wanted to have an enclosed area with a tub and a shower. And she wanted a wet area so that she could sit on the edge of the tub and bathe her new granddaughter and let her make a mess, and it was contained. So this worked out very nicely. We've added a window, got a lot of borrowed light in here. That's always the right solution. There's the bathroom. Bob's fly tying area. It's really elegant. We did this paneling throughout the entire basement in the workshop area and the fly tying area. It's plywood, and you'll see it and you'll wonder why. And we did it because Bob wanted it. The wine cellar, and once again, to get the illusion of space, we kind of did this pyramid number on the ceiling, just to make it feel like it wasn't sitting under a stair. This is the door to the mechanical room. I found this perforated, it's a square perforation on a stainless steel panel, so we put that behind the trim on the buttons on the door. Some of the other doors look like shoji screens, and this was intended to allow air to circulate into the mechanical room. Plus, it's an interesting door. Bob found soapstone. He said, "This is this is a material I want to use." He had a soapstone tub built. I did this sketch, and we had this tub built. It weighed about 1,000 pounds. We cut a hole in the roof and lifted this thing up, and we gave it a couple tests also to make sure it wasn't leaking. And we also have a backup system in case it does leak. This water is going to have to go someplace. Anyway, this was a fun day at 270 Overlook. We had to cut the hole. We had to seal the hole, make sure that was tight. The kitchen, we added some skylights, and these are these cherry cabinets made by a guy in Glen Ellen, Mike Wilson, Hummingbird Woodworks, and he does the cherry cabinets and the soapstone tops. And he did a great job, and everything works and everything fit. Another soapstone sink. That's a stainless steel sink. We had a soapstone fireplace surround, floor to ceiling, in the kitchen fireplace. Now, the lighting is I think it's wonderful. It highlights that brick. You get to see the texture of the brick. We have similar lighting on the fireplace, but it's ceiling lights that kind of wash the wall, and it's great to see the brick color. And I did a small pastel painting of the house just as a thank you present to Bob and Randy. And that's the painting, but the house is really the treasure. So anyway, thank you for bearing with me, and